Pizza Guest Hotline. It's the pizza that's known worldwide for a reason. And of course, gift cards for Western Pizza make awesome Christmas presents, great for work gift exchanges, and you should also look into their catering services at Western Pizza. And joining us now on the hotline, Gordon West, FC Regina marketing coordinator. Well, hey, Gordon, thanks for doing this.
Hi, no problem. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Of course, I understand that you folks have been busy coming fresh off Agribition, so you guys were kind of out of Real District for a little bit, but now you're back in and full force?
Yeah, so now we have back to our youth and adult programming. So we have our youth leagues and our adult leagues running in the evenings and on the weekends. And we have actually a tournament coming up this weekend, our FCR Cup, and then rolling into the Christmas break with more engaging registrations and things for our members coming up in the January.
So 1 week left to register, I see, as well, for the FC Regina Winterfest Youth Tournament. So tell me a little bit about that. That brings in a lot of folks.
Yeah, so the FCR Regina Winterfest Tournament is one that we do with our quarterfield. So mostly we have play on quarterfield action. So we get about 100 teams that register and come to town for that one. And that tournament actually goes January 14th to 18th. The tournament coming up, our FCR Cup, that's coming up this weekend. That tournament's a half field mostly, so that actually engages all of our Div 1 premier players. And that tournament happens this weekend with teams coming from all across, mostly from across Saskatchewan and a few from Manitoba as well.
So our question right now, Gordon, on SportsCage.com, it's a very simple one, but I feel like this is one that you would appreciate. How excited are you for the 2026 FIFA World Cup?
Well, it's a very exciting time in Canada for the sport of soccer, very big for the World Cup to be in our country, and very huge for the athletes that compete at that level to come and play in front of Canadians. I know a lot of our members are very excited. We're looking at the opportunities for our athletes to get down there to participate in camps and things like that. So we're very excited to do that. We also have some watch parties that we're planning for FIFA events and the Canada games, so we'll have some more information coming out that. But our soccer community is very exciting for that opportunity to host the World Cup in Canada and to watch the best Canadian athletes perform at that level.
I know that in 1986, in marching to Mexico, soccer in our province saw a huge influx when Canada qualified for the World Cup. And then I guess it would have been just 4 years ago that Canada also got back into this World Cup premier event. What does this mean for soccer and engagement in grassroots?
I think it's huge. I know for me, I was 9 years old in 1986. So I know at that point when I was that age, watching Canada play, I was actually in England at the time with my family over there. Watching Canada compete at that kind of a level of a tournament really sparked soccer. I know in BC where I grew up, it really sparked soccer kind of in that area. And I think it kind of get it across the nation. I think you really saw with the national team qualifying for the last World Cup, and really also, the women's team also doing a very good job winning World Cup Olympic titles and competing at that level. I think you've really seen the level of soccer in Canada improve, and therefore I think you've really seen the soccer and the grassroots grow. Soccer is really competing in Canada. It's the one sport that all kids are playing these days, indoor and outdoor. So.
What does the Affinity Plex mean to FC Regina? Because I'll admit it, right? When you're talking about 100 teams participating in a tournament, that absolutely blows my mind. But, being in and around the Cooperator Center, Mosaic Stadium, you can see how much that facility gets used. How much, maybe for someone unfamiliar, is the usage of that facility, and what does it mean to our city and even our province?
I think it's huge. We only have a handful of soccer centers in Saskatchewan, especially a whole bunch of full field facilities that can do full field activities. So for our club to be able to have a facility that is huge. Otherwise I don't know how we would run programming in the winter, especially competing in some of the tournaments we go to, Edmonton, Winnipeg, competing in some of the best clubs nationally that we try to have our athletes compete against. Without this space, I don't know how we would be able to do that training. Soccer, when I grew up, was played in gymnasiums and hard courts. It's really progressed now into field turf and that kind of a forum for the kids to play. So, I think having the facility we have is huge, and we need more facilities like this in Regina. At the end of the day, soccer is not the only sport that's looking for facilities like this, but, we have the capacity to have more athletes registering. So, for us, looking to have more field time and finding partners to get more turf space is something we're definitely looking into.
I don't know how to ask this question, but I'll just kind of throw it out there, Gordon West, the FC Regina marketing director. When you talk about professional soccer in our country, it is growing. We saw what happened in Vancouver this past weekend with the MLS Cup and playing Miami and the excitement that was sparked and created there. We've seen the successes in Calgary with the new women's league that started this past year. Do you think there ever is going to be an appetite or an ability to attract a professional game to our province? And what might that mean for grassroots soccer and the continued growth of the sport in our province?
I really think that with the new Canadian Premier League that's come into Canada, I really think there's an opportunity there for hopefully eventually for us to be able to have a team like that in Saskatchewan. We do have Mosaic Stadium, which is an excellent place to be able to at least start the process of having a pro team here. And I think it was really big for grassroots soccer in general. I went and watched a Canadian Premier League game in Calgary this year. I was at that home opener. It was a fantastic experience to be able to have professional soccer in Canada. I've been to Whitecaps games before. So I think for grassroots soccer and for the province, it would be a huge thing, a huge get for us to be able to bring something like that in. It's a bit of a process. There's a bidding process within the CPL for teams. But, hopefully our province at one point or another in the next few years, that's something that we could have some ownership definitely look into.
So Mosaic Stadium, obviously right now the CFL is talking about transforming their field and changing goalposts, so on and so forth. Would FC Regina have a conversation with Mosaic Stadium and the city of Regina when it comes to making sure there's an input to have a proper facility should an opportunity to either host a test event or a friendly, if you will, as opposed to maybe a full-blown awarding of a franchise? Is that conversation on between all parties involved to make sure that that facility is viable for soccer?
I know that us as a club, as far as FC Regina, we've definitely engaged the city to have conversations coming up, knowing that the turf is going to be replaced, to have those conversations about making it more compliant towards FIFA and Canada soccer rules. So we've definitely engaged the city, and we are in talks about having more conversations with them when they're a little bit further down their process about engaging people engaging the people that use the field as to what we may want to see come out of that. So we have engaged with the city about that, but they're in their process right now of deciding when that's going to be done. So we're in the list of people that's going to be definitely having those conversations moving forward.
So when you look at the World Cup coming to 2026 in Canada, of course, Toronto and Vancouver are the stops. Is there any downside at all for Canadian soccer that might lose momentum? For example, if Team Canada doesn't pick up at least one victory in the group stage, will that sway some of the momentum that is being built, or is this momentum just something that's going and isn't going to be stopped?
I'd really like to think that at the end of the day, it's a momentum that's going to keep going. I think, being able to bring all these professional athletes and countries that are high up on the FIFA rankings to Canada, to be able to have kids watch that, I think that's only going to further propel the sport. I know as an athlete and as a young man, being able to watch the World Cup and, being over at Europe at times where they were being hosted, it was a huge part of pushing me towards playing the game. So, yeah.
So with the World Cup draws last Friday, aside from everyone realizing Wayne Gretzky needs to brush up on his geography, what stood out to you?
Pardon me, can you repeat?
Sorry, I was laughing.
That's good.
That's okay. Yeah, no worries.
What stood out to you?
At the end of the day, I thought Canada's draw was actually going relatively well until Wayne picked the Pool A ball that had Italy in it. But, unfortunately, that's the way it goes sometimes. Switzerland's a decent team, but I definitely thought that's a team Canada could really compete with. Qatar, is another nation that's team is respectable, but at the end of the day, it was another good one. So at that point, when those two teams are on the board, it was looking pretty favorable for us. At the end of the day, now you have the possibility meeting number 12, FIFA ranking number 12, Italy, right? So we do need a little help, hopefully for Northern Ireland or Wales or Bosnia to hopefully, help us out there. But, if Italy is the team we face, then the Canada and the Canadian Olympic team have to come prepared.
I think it's really cool, going back to the start of the conversation, how you were mentioning that your organization of watch parties and different opportunities to get fans and players and athletes and I guess those that are engaged in our province, just allowing them to be a part of it. For someone who's attended an English Premiership game, I can't explain appropriately what that atmosphere is like. Could you try to explain what that is like?
The British soccer fan is a very passionate fan, and from my experience also being over there and seeing some games, it's a very different atmosphere to anything like I've been to in Canada. I even talked a little bit about the CPL, the CPL game I was at, with the chanting, and I guess there's just the way there's another bit of a camaraderie between football fans, that I say that as far as soccer fans goes. I was also a Canadian football player growing up, so Canadian football is another passion of mine, and obviously they have their passionate fans. But I don't know, when I've engaged with soccer fans inside of soccer stadiums, it just felt like another type of brotherhood to me that I maybe haven't experienced in other sports as a fan.
Yeah, again, it's just a different atmosphere, and it just doesn't seem to stop. You know what I mean? Like, it was my experience.
It's continuous.
Yeah.
Like, it goes for even at the CPL game they went for 2 hours. The chanting in the section I went at with people standing didn't stop for 2 hours. And it was like that at some of the other games I've been to in Vancouver, or even a couple of games I've been to over in England. At the end of the day, I don't know, I've been to football games, I've been to basketball games, I've been to baseball games across North America. When you get into that kind of an environment, like you go into those professional leagues, especially over in Europe and stuff like that, it's just a different thing that I've experienced anywhere else.
I'd agree.
Do they sell cough drops at the concessions? Because 2 hours of solid screaming sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I've lost my voice. Yeah.
See,
it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
The one question I always got asked is, how do you know what they're chanting? Oh, or you learn pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and they're very loud and passionate. And a lot of the people that you sit around, at least the games I've been at, they teach you the words so that you can kind of fit in and kind of chant along after a while. So.
See, I thought they were teaching me the words, but I realized they were different words. Anyways, that was a long story.
Yeah, fair enough.
Can you tell me about the programming that's available right now? You mentioned some of the tournaments and some of the things that are going on. So someone like me that's new to Regina that wants to get involved, whether it be at the youth level or even all the way up to the adult level, again, like I say, when I'm walking by the Affinity Plex, someone is always seemingly out on that field.
Yeah, so we have our adult league running right now that has open registration. That league runs, we have everywhere from men's 1 to men's 7 leagues, women's 1 to a community league, and we also have co-ed leagues 1 through 7. And those leagues allow all of our adult members to play soccer. Registration is a little bit more open in that one. As we try to bring adult players in and out, there's a bit more space in those leagues. In our youth leagues, we are full for our indoor registration at this time, but our outdoor registration will be opening at the end of January of 2026, so keep an eye on that. We also have our Goalkeeper University Varsity ID camp that I help work on. That's happening January 2nd to 4th. We'll have Paulo Ceccarelli, who's Canada's national goalkeeper coach here, with another Mike Gerard for the Vancouver Whitecaps will be here, and we'll have 4 other U sports level coaches that are goalkeeper coaches that'll be here working with the athletes too. So we normally get about 35 to 50 goalkeepers from across the province that come to that event, and it'll be our second annual one.
And we can still register for that?
The registration for that camp is still open. Yeah, that camp is open until towards the end of December. And then our outdoor registration for our outdoor season, which starts at the end of April, that will open at the end of January next year.
You moved back into the Affinity Plex late last week. The building was nice and aired out for you after exhibition?
Well, it's never really aired out after exhibition. So, no, it was still smelling a little bit farmy, but, I think everybody's kind of used to it. So, if you needed fresh fertilizer for the field turf, you could have found it quickly. Yeah, exactly. And, we are lucky there's a couple of bay doors, so, got to open those there and air out a little bit if it's a little bit too smelly inside. But it's been pretty good this year, so Real's done a good job.
Well, good. Happy to hear that you guys are back at it. You got a couple of, the Cup and then the tournament coming up in winter. So, yeah, you guys are absolutely busy. What's your website again, just in case folks want to go check out more?
Yeah, www.fcregina.com. You can go on our website. You can look at our adult and our youth programming and all of our camps and other pertinent information at our website.
Oh, fantastic. Gordon West, FC Regina marketing coordinator. Really appreciate the time. I know you have to go coach right away here, so
yeah,
appreciate you.
I coach the goalkeepers, the goalkeeper academies for High Performance Academy, so I'm off to do that next. But thank you very much for having me on, and I look hopefully forward to talking to you guys again sometime.
That'd be lovely. Thanks so much, Gordon West.
Thanks very much. Have a good night.